Hey,
Hello.
Familiar
so
faces.
you're growing your beard even more, or is it my impression?
Real weird pickle. So basically, I usually get my hair cut every 5 weeks. So the last time I got it cut was 3 or 4 weeks ago, and
Hmm.
it was just from somebody basically like completely random. Um, so this was kind of just all a mess. Prior to that was about 6 weeks or more, and I had a brand new stylist because my regular stylist had quit, basically. So, or retired is what they said. Um, so yeah, I'm a little bit of a mess, but I have somebody new that is going to be long standing, and I go back next weekend, right before I go to Denver. So um, that I should be looking good for Denver. So you guys can eat me up in those
Okay,
ChaosCon photos. But then after that, it should be relatively consistent every 4 or 5 weeks. And this is looking good. Yeah, I know
I,
it's a mess. It's bothering
that's
me.
quite a
So
deep answer.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
deep answer. I tend to let everything go for like 2 months before so I look like the wild man of Borneo, and then I go get everything trimmed back to nice. But yeah, it's because I don't go out much.
well, in case y'all wonder why I wear a hat, like I'm just
Oh
dealing
yeah.
with.
Well, I don't have hair, so I don't have to worry about that. It's just the beard, really.
Hi, Lane.
Welcome.
hmm
Hello, hello.
How do you say hello in Japanese, right?
It would be like konnichiwa.
Ah,
Um,
that sounds familiar.
yes.
We're going to talk about this later, but while we're still waiting for people to arrive, Elaine, I wanted to ask you specifically, did you have any desire to have input with the developer advocate program? And is there a better time I can move it to than 2 a.m. for you
Yeah,
or 3 a.m.?
a couple of meetings ago, you said you couldn't do before 5 a.m.
Yeah, basically. I am like currently interested in more about the developer advocacy program. Um, yeah, moving that up would be helpful to help me engage more with that. As for like particular times, just something, not going beyond like maybe like 2 a.m. like JST would be good. Or like having it like be like, like at like 8 a.m. or something. But
Do we do like a
um
1 UTC,
1 UTC, let me check what that
1
is.
p.m. UTC?
1 p.m. UTC, 1 p.m. UTC to JST. 10 p.m. JST. Yeah, that works great for me.
Okay. I'm going to
Cool.
move that as of next week. So
Fantastic. Thanks a ton.
hopefully I don't have
Super.
conflicts. Okay.
So, welcome, Agno. Welcome, Georg. Jordan. Yeah, should we wait? Yeah, maybe we can start. We're 4 minutes over already. Do we have quorum?
Yes, I think we do.
Okay.
Is the recording already started? Yes.
Yeah.
Captured our whole conversation. Okay. Yeah, Lucas, I can either to kick it off, or I can just start going based on the order of the agenda here.
The first point is something I didn't anticipate. So whoever wants can jump in, right?
Okay. Yeah, so it was me. I had to add this last minute here. I did put assignees here, so because everyone is in this area, we can just assign who's responsible for the agenda item. I don't have any plans to keep myself on here a whole bunch, but there are times when I just have to. I'm in control of a couple of different things. So I'm going to run through this, and if I start moving too fast, you all please just let me know. So we were asked to split the budget into a potential 2 separate withdrawals. I've received other news that may not happen, but there's a potential for it. So I was asked to get approval from the OSC for this. So if there were a 25 withdrawal and a 26 withdrawal, this is what was originally mapped out. big awareness here. There was a slight error with the PDF that was posted. The number is still the same, but in the PDF there was 250,000 for events, and then there was 150,000 that was missing for project support services. So that got added back in at 250, and then the 100,000 coming from events. I know it's a little bit weird, but this is what the actual number looks like, and it's a potential for what 2 withdrawals would look like. If the OSC refused 2 withdrawals, I can simply just put everything in 2025 and push it through as that. It's kind of just a glassy approval because I need to send this over to them in case they decide to take action this way.
Okay. So what you're saying is there was a mistake in the. Oh, sorry, Arnold, you put your hand up first.
No, sorry. I just had the question. Like, it feels a bit weird that the numbers for 2025 are higher than the numbers for 2026. What was the main? The back bounty, which makes a difference.
It's intentional because the desire is to put more of the money spent in 2025 since we originally had a 6-month budget. Some of the programs have transitioned to where the committee seemed to agree to do some of those annually, which is why a split is even, why we're even able to entertain the idea of a split, if you will.
Okay.
Christian, go ahead.
Just to clarify your concern, Johnny, the high level figure for when we asked for the community wasn't wrong. It was just a small calculation within the table that we missed. So the community is well aware this is what we're pulling this much money for the programs.
Mm-hmm. But was the line for project support services not there previously? Is this a new line?
No,
so-
it's always been there.
All right. Okay.
In the original budget. It's just when I was collating the report, I forgot to add one tab to what's on the paper document, but the totals are still there. If that makes sense.
Okay. As long as people are aware that it is a line and they approved it through process, then it's fine. Has it been updated for any documents that are attached to proposals currently, or is it still the old inaccurate?
The PDF is still inaccurate. Changing that would be a material change and might put us into hot water. The main point is that the amount is still the same. And so this comes on the backside, not trying to hide anything, but it matches with how the proposal was originally generated, and here's what the actual spend would look like.
Yeah.
So,
Everywhere else, all the numbers are there and accurate. It's just that PDF. That's it.
Oh, okay. So it was exposed elsewhere. As long as it's findable and people knew about it, and there's just like a clerical error, that's fine. If it didn't appear anywhere and then suddenly there's reallocation of a different line, that would be concerning for me. But if it appears multiple places elsewhere, then you can explain it away.
Yeah, no. It was just me pushing the document out too fast. That's it.
That's okay. Don't worry. Who was in it? No, you put your hand up. So the split is going to be still 6 months, but split between 2025 and 2026 because of the delays in getting treasury withdrawals out, or what's the reasoning for splitting it into 2?
Unfortunately, I did not get to attend any of the budget how or why sessions over the last week, but there was an idea as opposed to basically just this, to split up the withdrawals to make it easier so that not everything is being pulled from the treasury at once. I really don't know where that stands with the community.
I can
It's just
give you
a
an update.
potential.
So the Ecclesia vote ended with 47.9%, I think, in support of 39 individual treasury withdrawals. And then Jack later on came out to say that will be binding in a Twitter space, and they will do that. So there'll be 39 individual withdrawals per project for the full amounts per project. But as is the case in the Cardano ecosystem, that I guess that's subject to change, and they might do something different in the end. But yeah, from my understanding, at least, it would be the whole budget at once for the specific proposal for OSC at the current time.
What this is going to do, though, is it sets that money aside, but when we're actually withdrawing money to support the various programs, that's where those withdrawal amounts will be different. outside the
Is that from
treasury.
the smart? Is that from the smart contract that will be withdrawn into then secondary withdrawal?
Yeah,
I
basically.
guess so.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Like you would having staged payout from a smart contract that has review by the DREPs is sort of what they wanted to do. They wanted to do milestone verification and just make sure things are allocated properly. So I don't have any objection.
Yeah, it's just I know Adam also, I know he's not on here, but he's the one who helped spark this to me too, is some of these programs make more sense to go 12 months with the same funding versus 6 months. So that's where this breakout also ties into this, especially with maintainer retainer and the tooling. That way projects have an annual cadence that they can be reviewed under versus 6
Well,
months.
if you can stretch out to 12 months, what you said was an allocation for 6 months, then that's good budgeting, I guess. Like, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Guys, just to reiterate a bit, so we're saying that you're going to get just the top half that you were highlighting for the 6 month for the next 6 months.
Well, so I was just about to clarify that. So unless there's an extraneous a strenuous objection, basically I'm going to submit this through because I was requested to submit a potential breakdown, but I'm going to put with it the request that OSC prefers to have the entire budget up front.
Yeah. Well, at least into the contract to then be withdrawn from as needed. Yeah.
So in terms of liquidity or availability of capital, we're not going to burn everything at once, right? So in a way, if you are being asked to split it, sorry, I'm just trying to put in perspective, what was the ask? Is that we, instead of getting it all at once now, we get half now and half in 6 months? Is that it?
Essentially.
That's what they said. And so if we don't need all the liquidity, all the capital available on day one, would it make sense that we say that's fine and we're just going to kick off the things we need and manage the ones, you know, in terms of liquidity? So in a way, yeah, how do you, is this too far-fetched? And also, just while I have the floor, in 6 months we're going to be in 2026. But yeah.
So
Any
the way
thoughts?
I heard it from Lloyd is that the 39 withdrawals or slight smaller number, if any of those are combined, that's going to wipe away any potential of this split withdrawal. Again, I was requested to provide this yesterday, which is conflicting. So I'm just simply providing this. And like I said, putting that piece where the OSC still prefers to receive everything at once, just so that I've met that requirement from those who had requested it internally.
I hear you.
I think this
As
is the
long
plan B.
as the amount you've allocated for the first withdrawal doesn't put the OSC in a position of not being able to fulfill payments to the people who are going to be allocated their payments, then it's fine. You know, yeah. But if there was a scenario where there wasn't enough money to pay someone as part of like the operational regular payouts, then that would be a problem. But because you've upfronted it with a higher amount, I think you're resolving that problem.
So that's probably the only thing I would do differently, because that was originally for 6 months. So
Incident monitoring, you want it all up front, as well as the accelerator research. Just because that's a short program, so it should be done fast. Don't forget to zero out 2026 for those.
thank you. So the ones that are left behind here, project support can just be an ongoing thing. Cardano Summer Code. This would get us to set up the base event, and then this would be paying for travel into the new year if that was the situation that transpires. Bounties, majority is up front, just a small portion as a continuing effort. This one here, I calculated what was the need for developer advocates August through December. The remainder would be through April. And then the tooling working group was talked about as a 12-month initiative, so that just splits that directly in half. So that's the logic that's there. Questions, comments, concerns?
No concerns because you've applied the logic from me at least.
All right, I'm going to blow
Seems
past this then.
airtight to
So
me.
I'm going to change topics. Sorry, it's a hot swap. Developer advocates. So this is the application form. I added the image. It was removed last year, but I really wanted to have that back in, so I brought that back in. Developer advocate application. Thanks for your interest in time. And then the developer advocate program slides have been updated. I'm going to go to these here in a second. We are requiring a certain amount of information. So first and last name, the country, which is required so we can confirm payment restrictions or anything like that. Email, a LinkedIn profile at this point is still optional. We hope to make that required at some point in the future, but for the second cohort, it's still optional for now. GitHub and Discord are required, and then the X channel is optional here as well. But again, hopefully we just make this all required in a future cohort. Assuming they are working, we do want to understand what their current title is and where they are currently working. Questions here were developed within the OSC working group, if you'll call it that, just OSC members getting together on this. So why are you interested in becoming a developer advocate was from last year. We're keeping that the same. What do you hope to achieve as a developer advocate, and what strengths and experiences do you bring to succeed in this role? And then describe anything previous that you've done as a developer advocate, regardless of whether or not you have the title. So have you helped surface or resolve developer pain points? Into skills specifically, we're asking about past experience with Cardano in general, and then have you contributed to Cardano technically? Beyond that, we're looking at content creation, which was a new suggestion. And then we're asking as well for any contributions to other open source projects, particularly blockchain, but not Cardano if this applies. And this is an optional question here. Availability, so they need to commit to the biweekly meetings and participating in working groups, acknowledge their understanding of the 20-hour per week expectation. This is a part-time role. But again, it is still just on a grant basis, so they're not official employees. They just have a standard MSA contract. And then if selected, they will need to acquire an individual or higher level membership with Intersect in order to receive that payment or compensation. Optional here because there's not necessarily a way to guarantee that everybody has had contributions to another open source project that's not Cardano. It's not a perfect world. We can change that in future applications, but the conversation was it's best to leave that one as optional because there may or may not be an answer for it at this time. We redid the calculations here. So this was originally saying 5K USD equivalent quarterly. This is changed here based on the budget. So the previous conversation for developer advocate program changed it from a 12-month cycle to a 9-month cycle. That way we constantly have time to regenerate the program year over year. We've already spoken with the original cohort or the initial cohort of developer advocates, and they have an understanding that their role was volunteer as of the last time that they received payment back in March. So this does not include any back pay. This actually increases the pay for developer advocate, which is commensurate with the expectations. So that's roughly $4,400 per month, which in budget terms does comply or factor in the fact that we would be paying the treasury tax back in each time we make a payment to them. And then that's split up bi-weekly. So, or 15th and 30th of each month is when those payments normally go out. This is all boilerplate Intersect stuff, so nothing new or crazy there. Any other questions on the application itself?
So the payment is $4,400 per month for 9 months. Is that what you said?
The payment's going to come, 9 months. So it would actually be 2207 or 08 biweekly is how that comes out after the treasury fees.
And they get paid bi-weekly 15th and 30th. Well, sort of every 15 days. Okay. Cool.
Does anybody have issues? Because the plan is to release this application for Monday. Okay, looking good. So the other part here is the program slides. So developer advocate program, open source office, open source committee. So it's still managed by myself here in the open source office, but of course you as the open source committee own the budget line. And this is for the 2025 cohort. We're still keeping the same definition of what the program is. It's a little wordy, but it's designed for people to come and read through these slides. And this has actually been reduced to 7 slides. So it's really not much. What will the developer advocate program achieve? We're still keeping with the same ideas here. We want to incentivize participation, support onboarding of new developers into the ecosystem, engage with the community, and get a continuous feedback stream or maintain a continuous feedback stream for open source for Cardano. What is a developer advocate? This explains the role itself in a little bit more detail. The structure here, Christian, of course, is up at the top. We have myself, potentially be joined by an evangelist and any part-time legal counsel that we may get through other Intersect members. Developer advocates, service providers, strategic partnerships would all be different programs under this that I manage and oversee. And so the community resource for developer advocate falls here. Again, my management of these developer advocates is going to be heavily influenced by the desires of the committee since you all own the budget line. So keep that running around. General expectations. This slide actually didn't get updated. I'm so sorry. Let me jump over here.
We copied it from a previous version, and it was quite wordy previously. It was being pared down. There's the.
This is going to get moved and fixed momentarily. So, developer experience working group. They're expected to participate and/or lead the developer experience working group, and report to the open source committee on a biweekly basis here. So, every time that we have a meeting, we should have at least one of the developer advocates come to give us an update. Onboarding developers, these are going to be the first point of contact for developers at large. And they should be encouraging attendance to the developer experience and other technical working groups. So aside from the next one here, OSA or OSC meetings, they should also be meeting to onboard new developers and schedule or attend one-on-one meetings as needed. Schedule and attend, I guess, is what that should be. I can change that if need be. Basically, if somebody needs help and let's say they've already been onboarded, they should still be attending and scheduling meetings accordingly. Community engagement, they should always be attending events. They should also host virtual and in real life events and then be available via multiple communication channels, be accessible to the developers where they are. Feedback and improvement, we do ask that they help us to design and bring in feedback, and then any feedback that they do collect should be actionable. So that is something that I do review with them specifically when they create something. I want to make sure that we can actually action that feedback, and that's part of the things that are going into a revised strategy. I'll jump back here because the last one I did update in this file here. This slide has actually gone away, so the tenants are gone. Oh, everything's not updated. I'm so sorry. Okay. There's the last one. So the goals. Deep and strategic collaborations. So assisting the open source office and committee with forming our strategic partnerships. Diversity and inclusion. So we want this to be a welcoming environment. So they should utilize their outreach in local and their native communities alongside their event attendance to help grow the developer base, not only for core Cardano, but also for projects built on Cardano. Expanding the ecosystem with new projects. We would expect this or hope for this to become a good development arm so that we are seeing, we get a chance to see those new projects coming directly to us, and then that can also connect with our project support services. Fostering innovation, technology advancements as they are out there and they're developers and it's only a part-time role. They're going to be expected to look for new technologies, new ways for us to continue to improve and innovate our current processes. In building a global community, they should become focal points, maybe not as high value as like a community hub, but kind of create their own little developer hub where people in their local area, if they can't connect with us for some other reason, can reach a developer advocate, and that feedback where other issues still come back through. And then the developer experience repo that we have, there's going to be an expectation for them to continue to mature that. And that's also tying into onboarding, diversity and inclusion, so on and so forth. So I did update it. I don't know why I didn't update on this side. Maybe I didn't refresh. So let me try that. That file is wrong. So I'll fix that on my side. But yeah. Any questions on the 7 slides?
Is there any mention in them about content creation, YouTube, that kind of thing, as is in the questions in the application form? Is that an expected goal or a thing, or is that an optional?
It's not in here. It can be added.
Well,
the
it
goal,
probably
but-
isn't optional because I don't think everybody who'd be a developer advocate would be making YouTube videos. So it shouldn't be an explicit goal, I guess. What do people think?
I don't
I
think
don't
it's
think we need- Sorry.
No, go on.
I don't think everyone needs to do everything, and I've mentioned it in one of the calls this week that we should have sort of an onboarding call when we start electing people, or when they do get the roles, to sort of coordinate who does what, and so that they can complement it and collaborate rather than duplicate things. Elaine, please.
Yeah.
No, that was literally like what I was about to say of like, especially because like I think what we'll probably find is that, people tend to be better at the one thing than like, being a
absolutely,
YouTuber and
yeah.
also talking to like every engineer,
Absolutely. But should it form part of the goals of the general developer advocate role or not in the slides? If it's explicitly requested, what content have you created in the application form? And there's no reflection of that in the slides. That's my concern. But maybe it's a pointless concern.
What I would say is this: and I really hate my continued use of this term, but I don't have a better one right now. This is MVP, right? Obviously, it's an improvement, which is good, but this is still a baseline. Let's go out there and find developer advocates. We still have 5 or 6 weeks left while we'll be going through the application and the interview period for the OSC to continue to develop what the mechanics of the program looks like on the back end. So that's
Fair
the point of those developer advocate meetings, why they're on your calendar. If you can attend, please do. We really do need the feedback and work on that. And I'm looking forward to a much more cohesive experience for the second cohort here with the OSC's involvement. So I'm back on the
And
agenda. I'm going to step back from this. Sorry, Johnny.
I'll just counter my own point as well. Since it is in the application questions, you've already set up the expectation for somebody to maybe do this. So it's not necessary to have it in the goals and requirements because you've primed someone to think on that level.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. So we'll get back to the agenda here. I don't see Adam, so I guess I'll toss this off to Christian here for tooling working group. And then we do need to decide on a vice chair if we can.
Basically wanted to gauge all about how we want to launch the tooling working group comms wise to be smart about it. These individuals will help assess projects for that. I have also talked to the CF about doing some comms for us ahead of time. That way, because Marcus Golfer is who I was talking to. And the idea was to have them do some comms. That way it's not like, hey, there's a new working group and there's funding with it. Everyone just come hit the parades. Actually try and get some community surveys that dictate or help us find out what core infrastructure people are building on that should be applicable to this program, and then kind of open the doors that way. But that's kind of where I am with it right now. We have a somewhat of a draft charter. I'll put it up on the Git book here shortly. But I just need to launch the working group and get membership. And didn't know who from here outside of Adam wanted to be a part of it. Arno?
Yeah, me.
Okay. I'll tell you in.
No, I didn't have a question. Just answering your question.
I'll put you part of the working group.
I'll certainly try and drop in. Will this end up on Discord under the open source committee section then? And
Yeah.
it'll have its own. Will it have its own? I don't know.
Yeah.
Other tooling, other locations do exist. Will it use GitHub in any way?
It'll probably tie into GitHub just because it'll be in under our Git book unless we want a separate repository outside of OSC docs to keep track of stuff.
What I'm thinking about is Arnold's previous discussion about logbooks for progress and discussion. Like, is this something where we would want to set up a logbook for what the tooling working group has been working on, or is that too granular? rather than just a chat in Discord.
Lucas?
Sorry. This is not probably not a replacement of what you're suggesting, but maybe we could start by creating a thread within the OSC internal just for the tooling working group. So that creates sort of like a channel for that.
The only issue is that we can't expand that if there's anybody joining the tooling working group that is outside of OSC.
Yeah.
Well, we do want the transparency for it because we have to hold accountable for the funds allocated. So any kind of reporting that way, I'm open to.
I defer to Arnold for his expertise in working with logbooks in the past.
I usually do it in Git repositories. So if we want to keep track of changes, I've also done the simple solution of a Word document, of a Google Doc or Markdown or whatever. That also works. I think the important part is keeping a written record of actions and decisions that are taken, which at least from it's more like a stream of consciousness for the group so that everyone can catch up very easily. But and it's much more convenient to have it in document than in Discord. So if we are thinking of establishing a Git repository, we can start there. That's it.
Yeah, that works. I'll take action to get that set up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just concerned about the kind of perception of the Intersect as a very big Discord channel with lots of different things, with things to track and read and go over. So if there's some Cliff Notes thing that's available, that's what actual progress has been made, that would be good from the beginning.
Well, we do have the advantage of we do have a YouTube, the Gitbook, Discord. Me and Tex can put it on all the mediums as needed.
Beautiful.
So, okay. I will go ahead and message y'all on timings to get the first cadence together. That's updates from tooling.
Yeah. On to the vice chair. I know I have Lucas here, so Lucas, you can provide any input that you have. I know we are at just a minimum quorum. I did put a ping in the Discord to see if we can get some of the other stuff pop in. But even if we can't, we can still make a decision if everyone here is okay.
Yeah.
But in any case, we're looking for the people here, either Arnaud or Elaine. If either of you are interested in the vice chair, and then that would be the chair role come October, then we'd like to hear from you. But
So
I know we're
let
operating
me
with
just
that one. Go ahead.
picks up something that I was very clear in mentioning in previous calls. So the current situation, we have myself as chair, Adam as vice chair. What I had mentioned in calls is that we would have a co-chair that would work alongside me, but we would maintain Adam. And this week, we were aligning with Tex and the leadership or the open source office. And I need to redact myself and say that we're actually just going to have this. I want to make sure that this is very clear, because what I had asked for in our call 2 weeks ago is someone that works with me and that comes to all the agenda setting calls, for example, that's like someone that really is ready to take on the role when I roll off, and I'm probably going to be rolling off the committee completely 6 months from now. So yeah, I think if there's no questions about this nuance and that this is what we're talking about, not this, what I was going to propose, and I understand Texas is trying to get a decision like today, ideally, but I was going to propose that we run a poll within the Discord and try to nominate people or see, like, between ourselves, who do we want to suggest to be, or to push under the bus, let's say. But yeah, if you guys, like Tex was saying, both of you, if anyone wants to just step up, that would be sorted.
I would be happy to step up. The problem with the commitments,
Yeah.
like I guess, my only concern is, I mean, I find this work and this, I'm personally very much convinced that the work this committee can do and should do is important. The problem is that I also have a team to run and a node to build, and I'm afraid that from my side this might be too much that I can chew, and I wouldn't be able to do the amount of work you're putting into our Lucas or on this. So that's really my concern, to be honest. I would be very happy to be to be part of more involved, but I know for a fact that I might not uphold my promises. So I would rather not put the committee in a situation where it's not working because I can't. There are simply 24 hours in the day, and I need to sleep.
Yep. Elaine, please.
Yeah, I definitely think Arnard is a good candidate. I'm also interested in that. As of right now, I have less time commitments beyond the obvious time zone restrictions. But I will say, frankly, I think Arnard is someone with more experience with these, with leadership and of open source groups than myself. Obviously, I'm running a company and stuff. I have experience with that stuff, but yeah, just letting that, just putting that out to anyone who's considering doing stuff on a poll in the future.
So I just want to echo for awareness here. So the reason why we're looking at this, or why we're trying to get a vice chair in here, is because in October that vice chair would need to take on the chair role from a continuity perspective, and then we would be electing a new vice chair out of the new cohort. This is how this is being done in a number of other committees, to include budget, GMC, MCC, and it works for consistency that way. Now, that's obviously the biggest thing to consider right now is whether or not you'd be able to take on that chair role come October. But the other thing to understand with the chair role is that also includes attending the ISC meeting. So you do pick up another meeting and you get that chair role, but it gives you access to more information and more visibility on different decisions. So I'm trying to put those as positives here, but just want to make sure that the level of involvement is clear. I guess what I was going to say back to you, Elaine, was if Arnaud is interested but is declining based on a time commitment, it's not necessarily an issue that we have someone who may not have the same experience level. In this world, you can likely gain the amount of experience that would help you in the position between now and the October elections timeframe. At the very least, to keep the committee rolling and moving as it is on a similar development track and things of that nature. So I'm just saying, don't be afraid of it, is all I'm putting out there. But we can hear from anybody who's a sitting committee member at this point. What do we want to do, since we need to get this decided sooner rather than later? But if it has to be delayed from today, just want to know the next steps.
Well, if it goes into the Discord that anybody wants to put themselves up for nomination rather than having it forced upon them, I think that would probably be a better method. Because if we decide, oh, this person would be great, and then they say, well, I can't do it or I don't want to, that's not a good way to go. So maybe in the chat, put out a request. Does anybody else want to stand up beyond Elaine? And Arnold can't because of time commitments, but he would have been a good candidate. So yeah, that would be the next step for me. Like, anybody want to stand up for a nomination and then put that in a poll and maybe get it done today or tomorrow or the next day, very quickly, as you say, Terence, as soon as possible.
And
but we need to make sure that everybody who was elected gets to say yay or nay on whether or not they want to stand up.
yeah, absolutely. I would also point to this video for anyone that's not here, that they should, review what we were just talking about before they decide to take on the role. token.
Okay.
I think that's that's it for now.
Sorry,
Right.
could you repeat that?
I would also say that anyone that's not in the call that wants to take on the role should review these few minutes that we were talking about this. So
Well, once
that
that
they know
gets
their
published, I guess
responsibility.
you could link to it, but it's not going to be published for a few days. But that might delay actually standing up and voting, unless it goes up tonight or tomorrow, I guess.
It'll go out in a few hours.
Okay, well then you can link to a timestamp and say anybody want to do it.
We're running down on time here, 20 minutes. I
Yes,
want
let's move on. Yep.
to over to you, John.
Okay, I got a
Maintain and
link.
retainer updates.
Yeah, I'm putting a link in chat. This is something I've already put in the Discord and Slack channels. This is a link to the questions that I derived from an existing document that was called the Maintainer Trial Program document. It was the idea that anybody who gets put on the Maintainer Retainer program would have a 30-day trial period. And that document is linked to at the top. That 30-day trial period had a bunch of things that people would be assessed on in that 30 days. So I decided to extract from that questions to go into the application at the beginning, so that you'd be matching to what you'd be assessed on anyway. So these are 12 questions, and they might be too many, but I just took everything that I could find that was going to be something that they were rated on and turned it into a question for application purposes. George has put a number of comments, and he highlighted the fact that I might have been speaking to the wrong audience in a couple of the questions when I said previous projects, when it's about making people who are already maintainers of existing projects suddenly now get financial support for continuing to do so. And rather than completely new maintainers coming on, although I don't know exactly what the audience is it a mix, or is it explicitly existing maintainers now being paid? Question for the open source office, I guess.
It kind of
Yeah,
can be
yeah.
both. I mean, it's not necessarily the existing people. It's also bringing people to assist the existing people. If the project, say if a project gets nominated into the tooling sustainability, that maintainer is inclusive of that, but we could qualify 2 external people to come help with that project, potentially.
Okay. So
It's up to OSC definition.
yeah, the question I have for the group then in the OSC is, are these questions too exacting, too verbose, too much, or are they fit for purpose for people that would suddenly be being paid for maintaining repositories or helping to maintain repository? George, have you got any comments? As you did make comments.
We just need to decide on how we want to set this up. My assumption has been that the maintainer retainer is for existing community members who have proven their ability to work in these projects, maybe already have maintainer status, and by providing funding through our retainer program, they can dedicate time and don't have to go elsewhere to sustain their livelihood.
I believe that's part of the case, but the question is, how do you verify that that person has that level of experience, skill set, and is to be selected to be paid? And that's what these questions are intended to try and filter for. Give people the opportunity to answer them, to say, this is what I've done previously, or what I'm currently doing in line with the requirements of this program, so that I can be selected for funding. But I'm wondering if I'm gatekeeping too much. I was basing it entirely on the 30-day trial period, because I figured if that is the method being used to assess people once they've got through application stage, you might as well challenge them in the application stage to match to the requirements of the 30-day trial as much as possible. So that's where that comes from.
Mhm. Yeah,
I
right
personally
now,
agree with your thought process too, Tony.
I don't know.
Would it not be the case that if a person answers those questions, then this person probably has a visible track record that we can basically check? I mean,
Absolutely. This is why the questions ask for links and proof. So this is the verification step. There has to be an application form.
yeah, no. What I'm saying, like, I totally agree. I'm just saying, I'm just suggesting that in the end of the day, the application. I mean, rather than the actual answers to the question, it's more the actual track record or reputation or contribution of this person that we'll basically look for or check.
Yeah, I completely agree, which is why I'm asking, can you provide details of your previous experience, or can you
Yeah.
provide links to so that we can review what you've already done, or can you talk about how you would do this? Like there's a security incident one, like how would you respond to a security incident? Have you done this before? Can you show? Just so that we have a means by which, with each person that's asking for funding, we can read over how they've replied, look at what they've submitted previously in like pull requests or handling problems, and just it's like a starting point for us to actually assess people who want to get funded. And then Tex pointed out after I put the questions is we need a scoring system for that, or is it just vibes? Like this person's answered quite well, and therefore we like them, or do we have a formal set of scoring for how they answer these questions? But then that goes into looking at their previous work and verifying the quality of that work. Do we have a scoring model? Can we make one?
Do we want to like rigorously evaluate this like on a scoring model, like with like thresholds and stuff?
This is the question that Tex put forward, and I'm interested in the answer.
I'm personally like not like super in favor of like a rigorous standard like right at MVP. I feel like that's the type of thing that would kind of provide
Kill
more
it in
drag.
the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you also have the type of project too to take into, because maintainership changes based on the project a little bit.
Do you have some particular examples of that in mind?
It depends on the adoption use case. If you're working on Node, you're probably going to deal with a lot more stuff than, say, maybe Cardanominal or Annotatus.
Yeah, I mean, the example might be, we need someone to work on the network layer for the kind of node because the repository is now maintained by one person. The level of expertise or the particular experience level of expertise you need from that person is very specific. So it's hard. It's hard to have a very. I mean, it's not like if you have been contributing to 100 front-end TypeScript projects, you will probably not be the right person to maintain the Ouroboros network package, even though your track record as an open source contributor is stellar. So there is a matter of, I would say, judgment in terms of the specific skill set for each of the projects. It's not very generic. I mean, part of it is generic, tied to the experience, but part of it is very specific. Which is the problem.
That makes sense.
Sorry, go ahead, Elaine.
Oh no, I was just agreeing with you. That like that does seem like you would want to like have more specific evaluations, and thus kind of like reduce like a little bit of the emphasis on like one form to fit every maintainer type of thing.
What I will say is what I put forward here is not an all or nothing. I made it explicit at the top that the questions can be rearranged or refit, or new questions are free to be added. So if you collaborate with the document or put any comments on existing questions that I've had, it could also be pulled for it could be used as a set of questions to be pulled from for any specific repository where it applies or doesn't apply. So not just generic for all. But again, it gets quite complicated when you start doing that and don't have a generic application form, because then you're going to have to start very granularly setting up how this process works. So these are relatively generic questions about management of existing projects without any specifics about the project. Although it does say at one point, like, there's one here about, can you provide an example of having worked with or created or tailored tracking, reporting, filtering based on project specific needs, or help define project specific attributes? So that's like sort of related to that. But my point is, please collaborate on this document. I have done the first draft. Please put comments. Please put new questions.
Yeah.
If there's better ones.
That's what I was going to propose, that we continue synchronously on this topic, and maybe on Monday as well, on the Monday's call. Tex?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it back. I guess there may be a few questions around this at this point, or concerns even. I just wanted to put a reminder out there about the Andamio platform, whether we would make any decision to potentially use that or even try to find a way to white label that. That gives us an opportunity to test and or educate these maintainers prior to them actually taking on the work. And it also helps us to protect the compensation relative to their individual deliverables as well. So as expansive as that program gets, I'd love to have a deeper discussion on that. I was going to say the same thing as you, Lucas, on the timeline here. So let's pick that up a little bit later on. But I wanted that to still be top of mind because I wanted to kind of understand everyone's opinion that way. Irregardless of anybody else's pushing of it, it's an option that's there for us.
I'm making a note on the Miro board, and let's move on then.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that we skip the summer of code for this one. We're going to try to bring Robin into a future meeting, and we can pick it up then. We give you the last 9 minutes here, Lucas, on the check-in piece. The only thing that maybe you can walk us through initially, there was a suggestion, I think it was by Phil DeSaro, that we use
I'll share my screen.
Okay.
On the GitHub part, I'm not sure if Johnny or someone can take the lead on that because they're more familiar with it.
I can do it.
Yeah. Just on from what I've worked on, we've done this exercise since Georgia came over. I was just reviewing that call of prioritization of the budget topics, and so we've broken them down like this. And today, Tex was talking about splitting it or something like that. So I was reviewing that the priorities match a bit. I took a screenshot, Tex, if you could share a bit that grid where you were balancing now and later the payments. Maybe we could drop that here to educate a bit what we're planning to do. And so the whole exercise that we started on our call 2 weeks ago, which was a bit understanding your from check-ins, understanding your interests and what you can work on, identifying problems. Obviously, that's all interesting, and we should go back to that from time to time. But we also have all this timeline, or it's not a timeline actually. It's parallel things that are going to happen. This is all the topics or lines in our budget. And what I'm starting to do here is also, we have the whole team. This is like some stamps where I can select a person and copy it and stamp that person when they're collaborating on something. So that's what I've been doing here. And although this is not a document that we're going to be releasing or something like that, it's literally like a Kanban thing where we can start knowing who's been on this kind of, so Johnny has been working on the maintainer retainer thing. Me, Johnny and Tex and Philip have been working on developer advocate. So that we start having a bit who's on what. Today we spoke a bit more to have Arnaud leading or more in the know about the tooling working group. And although it may seem a bit futile, I think as we start getting into the weeds, it's important to be able to zoom out and to see who's the connection point for each thing. Also, there's topics here that we've been going over, and I can delete all this after each call, but it's just a way of detailing for myself a bit what's happening there and to share that kind of detail and links with whoever wants to explore the board. So in overall, I would like this to continue to be a place where we meet or where we catch up on what other people are doing. In this case, for example, we've discussed that Johnny was supposed to do this. He did it. We flagged it in green. It's here for people to review. So that's something that we can explore and align on when we have our work sessions. Apart from this, for some, especially for some, like Arnaud was talking here about creating a Git repo. I made a note there, and I think there was that note about something else as well. So I'll pass it back to Tex for the Git part, the GitHub part.
Thanks. Yeah. So here's the only thing I'm really trying to confirm is where does everybody want to work? So we've got this Miro board. I think this is really important that we continue on here, irregardless of anything. What I was showing previously was ClickUp. Lucas, I don't know if you saw that up. Okay. So in ClickUp, the OSC has we have our own board. So if you maybe give that window full. Yeah. And then we go ahead and minimize the calendar for today. I just want to look at the wholesale. So we have a to do. You guys are, they can make sure that you have the right permissions to edit things in here. The question is should we continue to use ClickUp? I can give individual demonstrations or a wide cell demonstration in one of those future calls, an agenda set or the developer advocate piece. Where exactly are we going to work cohesively is the question. And so ClickUp and Miro are the options that we have right now that are Intersect provided. The other one is GitHub, which Phil had requested for. And if you want me to share, or I'll just share. It's fine.
Yeah, please don't. Just to add, for me, the Miro would always be just an overview, like who's on what department. I wouldn't do tasks there.
Yeah. So. Phil had basically been asking that we use a project board within GitHub. Now, the only reason, I just want to be completely transparent. The only reason why I'm a little bit risk averse to this is that some of this has already happened with the product committee, and we would need to have a budgetary conversation if we're going to talk about multiple committees or even all committees having access or being members under the Intersect MBO organization so that you have access to work off of these project boards. Still going to work out the kinks to see what all of that is required, but in my experience, it's been that if there's a project board, it does require that a member is a part of the Intersect organization on GitHub. So that's the only reason why I'm a little bit adverse to this. It's also just another thing for us to track. My thought is that if we can work off of the Miro as far as what we're doing, and then we can go back to ClickUp and we can task manage this here because I have a board to do in progress. Yeah. This one here is explicitly for the agendas. I think this works really well. We can put the assignees on, we can put due dates, we can put priority. It just requires us to really get used to using this is the thing. So how does the committee want to work is the big question right now. And we got 2 minutes to decide for the moment.
I think it was Johnny first, right?
Yeah, the major point Phil was making earlier in the week in one of our meetings was about actually assigning tasks to committee members to give people ownership over what's going on. I got assigned the task of deriving these questions, and that got done. Maybe there's other tasks that people want to explicitly be assigned in things like ClickUp or GitHub. ClickUp does have the facility for it, and I don't think Phil would object. Well, I can't speak for him, but I hope Phil wouldn't object to the method as long as it's actually happening. So if do people want to move to a task-based method of this committee and having people assigned on specific things to do and then be reviewed in the next meeting or not is the question.
Oh yeah. Personally, I don't have a strong feeling. I just feel that ClickUp is just yet another project management tool I have to use, which makes, I'm using GitHub, I'm using Jira, I'm using Asana, I'm using whatever, all kind of stuff. So I would rather have a single tool, even with lower technology, than having multiple tools, even though they are nice. So that's just me. I will adjust to whatever people feel comfortable, and people who are doing the legwork are comfortable with. Just saying that multiplication of trolls is always, it's always an additional friction when it gets to having work done and having to look at what needs to be done and where. Legwork is my job. Yes. Thank you, Tex.
Irregardless
Legwork officer.
irregardless of the tool being used, does the principle stand that people in the committees want to be given tasks to do for the next meeting, or do they not?
If another way is to as an outcome of a meeting or of the committee is just have a list of tasks and with people in front and put that in the open source committee Discord channel, for example, or in a sticker on the Microboard. That's just enough to me.
I am aware that when that's been done in the past, there hasn't been a huge amount of engagement. So specific people even electing themselves to take on a task might be a method to do this. Because if everybody thinks everyone else is going to do the task.
No, that's why I'm all for writing down explicitly X is doing Y, or of course. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, no, I was more talking about the medium for doing that.
No, absolutely. But I wanted to go back to the principle. But yes, to your point, there is a preferred method, and there is already familiarity, and you don't want to have another thing added to your list.
I don't care. Yeah, at the end, I don't care. I'm just saying that maybe concentrating on one tool. If Miro is fine and we have everything there, maybe we can just stick to Miro. Why not?
It's not really great for tasks tracking.
Right. Sorry, guys.
I've done it for 3 or 6 months with the Hydra team. We did our project tracking on Miro. It was fun in some ways. But...
Okay, well, maybe then.
But yeah, I'm with George on this. I'm not sure.
So, but I don't know. For example, on the tooling part, you were saying let's have a log on GitHub, right? For that project, you're going to have that log there, right?
I mean, if we I was saying that I'm used to. I spend my time on GitHub. 100%.
Yeah.
90% of my time is on GitHub projects. So of course,
I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm actually highlighting that for your project, we could have that there. And
it could
overall,
start as an HackMD document, as a Markdown document in the HackMD, or a Google Doc in the repository for everyone. As long as everyone has access to it and we can update it, it's fine. So whatever makes sense. We can start with a simple doc, I would say.
Let's resume on Monday, if you can make it. And I will
try to make it. Yeah.
Let's do a tentative on Thursday, like 1 week on this time slot that we just used. I'm going to be there if anyone can join. Okay. Cheers.
I'll just highlight for the recording that Elaine in chat has said with regards to if we want to do task tracking or not with respect to tool specifics, I think probably it would be a good thing to have some type of explicit ticket ownership, which is nice to hear. Thank you, Elaine. I was very happy to be given a very clear and specific thing to do for this meeting, and I was very happy to create that document so that it made me feel like I actually did something for the committee. So I'm hoping maybe others will want to step up and pick up things to do.
Okay.
Thank
See
you
on Monday. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.